Hi friends, and welcome to Marvelous Friends, your home for all things Marvel Cinematic Universe and beyond. I'm Brent, and today I'm going to be talking about the stacking of villains in the Spider-Man movies. Roll that credit. Spider-Man has been around for a minute in the comics, and because of this has created quite a long list of villains unique to his stories. In the movies, though, honestly, we've only seen a handful of these, and many of these over and over again over the 2 decades of the film franchises. This list of villains that we've seen in the movies, though, has been quickly growing, especially at a higher rate with the new Tom Holland franchise with the MCU. To give you a quick reference on this, I'm going to break down what villains we have seen so far in each of the franchises. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man faced off and/or referenced Bonesaw, Green Goblin by Norman Osborn, Doc Ock, Venom, Sandman, and Hobgoblin featuring Harry Osborn. Andrew Garfield went up against the Lizard, the Gentleman, Electro, Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, Harry Osborn. Vulture and Doc Ock were both referenced in post-credit scenes, and we did see Rhino. Tom Holland so far has gone against 2 versions of the Shocker. We've seen the Tinkerer, he went up against the Vulture. We saw references to the Prowler and Scorpion. He's going up against Mysterio in the next movie, as well as Sandman, Hydro Man, and Magna Man, and potentially we'll see the Chameleon as well as Norman Osborn in this film as well. Needless to say, they've been pumping villains into these movies at a higher and higher rate with each adaptation of the franchise, which makes sense. To create the Sinister Six, you need a huge number of villains to select from to create this iconic evil team. Now, Andrew Garfield did get the closest with his Amazing Spider-Man, with even a Sinister Six movie of its own being teased following the second film. However, everything then happened with Andrew Garfield being let go. Then that ended the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. Then Sony and Marvel came together to work on bringing Spider-Man into the MCU, and the Sinister Six movie kind of disappeared altogether. It is my belief that the ramping up of the introduction of villains in these movies has to do with the fact that Marvel and Sony are working together to finally give us fans what we've always wanted, and that is to see Peter Parker face off against a group of his most dangerous villains. Now, we did receive a leak recently that would almost confirm this. If that leak is true, always take leaks for what they are. We never know until we've actually seen it. But in this leak, the man claims to be a special effects artist on the film, specifically working on the mid-credit teaser scene. Now, in this scene, he says it starts off with Mysterio and the Chameleon talking to one another in a dark room. Mysterio thanks the Chameleon for having its back for the events of the movie. It then pans out to show us some of our homecoming villains, including the Vulture, the Tinkerer, Scorpion, and the second version of the Shocker. Then panning out more, we see additional parts of the room, and Norman Osborn enters from a dark corridor, a dark corner of the room, and then thanks all of the villains for joining him. It then pans out more, and we see that they are in Oscorp Tower, which was previously Stark Tower or Avengers Tower with the Oscorp logo replacing the previous. Now, all this confirms basically the idea that we have our official team of the Sinister Six, and Norman Osborn is organizing and backing them. Again, if this leak is true. There is, of course, speculation on the accuracy of this leak. The editor claimed to be working on the clip with music attached, which is unusual. Music is usually the last thing attached to film before it goes out. Now, for him to be working on the final touches of the special effects with the music attached just doesn't seem quite right. It also seems to be playing up on a lot of things that we've already been kind of confirmed, or at least have been already speculating on within the internet. One of these, of course, being that in the opening scenes of the movie, which are shown in the trailer, we see quite a few shots of Spider-Man swinging through New York City with buildings under construction. One of these specifically is seen kind of predominantly, and it's believed that that is the Stark Tower or Avengers Tower under construction. And a lot of people, of course, jumped on this, that it is potentially Oscorp who has bought it and is rebuilding the tower. We also have gotten basically confirmed that the Chameleon will be joining the movie as well as kind of a secret secondary villain. You can see my video on this if you click the little card, and I will definitely agree that we will be seeing him in the film. My argument against this leak really comes down to 2 main points. First of all, a very minor argument is the fact that this requires a lot of discussion between Marvel and Sony. Sony still does own the rights to the character Norman Osborn, or Osborns as a whole, and so there would have to be an extension of the deal between the 2 companies for the use of the Osborns. Now, this is very plausible and something that could have easily been done already, so that's why I find this to be kind of a minor argument, especially considering it's been such a strong rumor that the Osborns, and therefore the Goblins and Oscorp, will be joining the MCU relatively soon. And honestly, the Osborns are kind of a staple of Spider-Man's world. So they have been kind of a missing piece to not even have them referenced at all so far in this franchise. Though I personally haven't really missed them too much, as they have been such a major player in the previous two franchises, so it's kind of nice to see them mix it up a little bit. My bigger argument against this is the fact that the whole argument that Oscorp has bought Stark Tower. Osborn's being such a major player in Spider-Man's story just doesn't make sense for them to be thrown in this way as a post-credit scene teaser. It doesn't seem like Marvel's style. I feel like really and truly we'd have spent some time establishing what Oscorp is, who the Osborns are, how they relate to the Parkers, and kind of then throwing them in a movie or so later as the big reveal of who they actually are in the storyline, being revealed as villains. And in fact, it's saying a lot because Oscorp hasn't been mentioned anywhere in the MCU. Now, in the MCU, we have quite a few industries and companies within various industries that kind of have been noted. For example, we of course have Stark Industries, we have Hammer Technologies, we have Prim Technologies, we have Roxxon Corporation, we have Wizard, we have AIM, we have Cybertech, and these are just tech companies. These aren't any other industries. And the list actually goes on and on from there. And so have all of these companies and Oscorp isn't on that list just doesn't make sense that, oh, here they are. Now, granted, it's been 5 years. In the events of Endgame, we do see that time jump, and so maybe they were a small-time player, and over those 5 years grew to power to kind of make up for the loss of maybe the manpower and the ability for those other companies to progress, and maybe an entire one of those companies completely got snapped clean, and so someone else needed to step in as a replacement industry leader. And that is very possible, but again, I feel like that would be established more, and then in the next film, have Osborn have his grand reveal. To kind of further this, I really don't think Stark Tower would have been bought out by one of these. It makes much more sense that bought by Oscorp, it makes much more sense that one of these other companies would have been the one to buy them out. They are much more established. We know many of these are direct rivals of Stark Industries and kind of want to take him out. So if Stark was looking to sell their property and the Avengers Tower, it would make more sense to me that one of these others would want to get in there to get their hands on all of that kind of potential findings of tech left behind in the tower. To add on to this, I don't think Stark Industries is selling their tower at all. In fact, I could see them rebuilding it for themselves. Stark Industries is very much so alive, and in fact, Tony Stark hasn't had really much to do with the company since Iron Man 2 when he gave the keys to the kingdom to Pepper Potts. And in addition to this, in the first trailer, we saw Happy handling a check that was signed off by Pepper Potts, and under the signature, it reads that she is still the CEO and chairman of the foundation put in place by Stark Industries as a kind of a recovery effort to kind of make up for the Avengers and any damages they do. So Stark Industries is very much so alive, even if Tony isn't, and so I would say that this tower that is in the scene probably is not Stark Tower or Avengers Tower. It's their own independent one. Now, it is kind of a here or there to say that maybe Stark Tower / Avengers Tower is being revamped and kind of reworked. We did see quite a bit of the world in kind of a disarray in those kind of post-in-game snap events, having, most of the population wiped out. A lot of the world has kind of went under kept, if you will, in those 5 years. So, maybe there is a lot of construction going on, and Avengers Tower is one of those, but I would say Avengers Tower and Oscorp are going to be separate towers, potentially building kind of a rivalry between the two. All the tower stuff aside, the main takeaway is here, I do believe that the Sinister Six are coming, and coming soon. However, if we're going to see them directly established in a Spider-Man film, I think it might be a 2-movie kind of arc before we actually see the Sinister Six show up as an organized unit, with the next film kind of establishing the Osborns, which needs to happen quite a bit more, and then in Spider-Man 4, we see the Sinister Six at their full power. Another option to kind of establish this a little bit more quickly is to give Sinister Six their own franchise, like what was initially planned during the Amazing Spider-Man run. Now, basically, this would be more of a Norman Osborn focused franchise, whether it be an independent film or even a Disney Plus feature with all the Sinister Six members kind of acting as support characters and the whole workings of them coming together. And then in Spider-Man 3, seeing them come at him and that full force. This would actually get us to more of a Sinister Six face-off a little bit faster, and so it would be my preferred method. I also would kind of like to see the more kind of Disney Plus feature. If it's going to be anything like the Netflix series kind of runs, you get to see a little bit more of an in-depth storytelling than you get to see in a typical 1.5 to 2 hour movie. So I'm kind of hoping for that personally, and I think that would be a great way to kind of build this and get us to that face-off a little bit faster. What do you think? Do you think this whole influx of villains at a rapid rate is building to a Sinister Six face-off, or do you think it's just because Marvel has a lot more characters to use, and so they like to make those nods and kind of references to so many of them? I also would like to know, who would you like to see on a Sinister Six roster? For me personally, I'm not a big fan of the Tinkerer being on there. I think there's so many other villains we could see that would be a lot better than him, but that's just my personal opinion. Let me know the answers to all this down in the comments below. I will also point out that this is one part of a 3-part video kind of mini-series that I've all uploaded, so check out the other 2 parts as well. For all my future videos, though, make sure to subscribe and set those alerts so you can get the notification when those go live. In the meantime, though, I love you all 3,000, and I hope you have a marvelous rest of your day. Bye, friends.